Hi, today we're going to take a look into the world of giclée fine art printing. I'm going to give you a guide as to best reasons for using certain papers and certain inks and hardware technology. We'll be looking at a wide range of papers and hardware which appeal to photographers, artists, general printing services. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be more enlightened as to what is out there, what is available, and what you can work with to produce stunning fine art giclée quality results. So, what is fine art printing? Many people have different views on this subject as to what that actually means. So, giclée fine art printing is one way of defining fine art. It's where you have the use of specialist heavy grade papers and textures, and that widens your scope to produce prints which are exceptionally outstanding compared to printing on general everyday papers such as gloss, satin or matte. But these elevate your print images significantly if you choose the right type of paper with the right type of image. Giclée, the term itself, is a definition meaning ink squirt in French, Old French. But the definition within our industry today is that you can't really call a print giclée quality unless it is meeting several criteria. The key criteria are the paper base that you're using must be 250 grams or heavier. The paper itself has to be ideally cotton rag or alpha cellulose, and you must be printing on a printer with at least 7 pigment inks or more, which will give you the longevity and the archival nature of what a giclée image is all about. The fundamental reason behind using giclée art papers is to elevate the perceived value and the actual value in reality of your own images, whether you are doing them for yourself or particularly if you are selling them commercially. So the appeal is to people doing art and reproduction of their art, certainly with photographers and commercial businesses who are doing print services for people walking in on the high street. So the first step in this equation is generally you've got to start with a piece of hardware that's capable of printing high quality fine art images, particularly if you want to reach and meet that giclée criteria. So out on the market at the moment, we have obviously the two main brands that are available, which is Epson and Canon printers. And really you're starting at a point where, as we said, if you're going to strive for giclée quality, you really need to look at the 7 inks or more. Although there are some lesser printer models in their ranges, they wouldn't generally qualify. So I'm probably talking about the Epson 8550, which is a very popular one at the moment. But this is an EcoTank printer, and EcoTank inks are generally dye-based, and it's only 6 inks. So although it can produce nice looking colour images, it wouldn't qualify as a fine art giclée printer. So looking ahead, if you look at the range today, we are looking at the Canon Pro Image Prograph 310, which is the flagship A3 Plus printer, the Canon Image Prograph Pro 1100, and in the Epson range, you're looking at the SureColor P700, which is their A3 Plus offering, and the Epson P900, which is their A2 offering. All of these printers are meeting all the criteria necessary to use all the types of papers, textures, grades of weight that you are going to need to achieve that giclée quality in your fine art printing adventure. So touching back upon printers that don't meet the criteria of 7 inks, pigment inks for giclée printing, if you are using a lesser quality printer, an all-in-one printer, 4, 5, 6 colours, generally most of these are dye-based printers, so they wouldn't qualify as we've mentioned previously. But it doesn't mean you can't print on art papers generally, on most of them, and achieve a nice result. So just be careful when you go to sell images from these printers, as you won't be able to call them giclée standard. So what I'd recommend with the printer hardware side of things, if you don't already have a printer, I'd strongly recommend that you contact us to discuss what you're trying to achieve in case you're unsure, because it is quite a large investment in terms of probably a few £100, And obviously our intention is to get you to get the very best results on our papers from those printers. So please do call us before you make the purchase if you can. And we're happy to discuss at length what might be best suited to your needs. So in this section, what we're going to do is now look at the largest piece of the conversation, which is really choosing the right type of paper for the print. There's a wide choice of fine art papers out there, and obviously with the PermaJet range, we've tried to assist you by defining either textured, smooth, or baryta, so that this will point you in the right direction based upon what your image type or your end goal is with your artwork and so on. Generally, papers are manufactured from wood pulp or from cotton rag. So cotton rag being the husk of the cotton plant, which is used to make the base of the paper. All our art papers are acid free. So that's really important when you're looking at the archival length of time that the print will last, in conjunction with the pigment ink that you've used on your now purchased fantastic pigment printer. So there's a clear definition between a textured and a smooth paper in these fine art paper ranges. And just for reference, we've got two here, where one base is very watercolor orientated, so that would be more suitable to art of an artist reproduction. And we have one that's more smooth, much smoother, with no texture, which would lend itself to high detail and more graduations of detail across the print. So generally, textured papers, if you're not choosing a texture because of the content of the image, so let's say it's a textured brick wall or something in the image that you could almost feel with the texture on the paper, they are very much emulating art papers, which you would either sketch or watercolor, create watercolor images on as originals. And by using these papers, you can do fantastic clones of your original art and be able to sell that art as giclée approved. And the third group we've not really mentioned is the gloss baryta papers, or baryta generally. These are a range of papers brought out in the inkjet world to emulate the old papers from the darkroom days of wet processing. And there's really nice choice of papers now. Many of them are glossy or semi-gloss, and there are a couple of matte ones in the PermaJet range as well. And this gives you an offering to recreate really high-key, great detailed either monochrome or color images. The monochrome part of it is where those papers were really generated and created to aim for that part of the market. So if you are doing a monochrome image, do consider a baryta paper for that image before you go for a standard textured or smooth art paper. So when choosing your art paper, do remember, generally art papers have to meet at least 250 gram, and many of them are anyway. But if you were to compare those images, gram weight itself doesn't denote thickness, but it indicates that the higher the gram weight, usually the thicker the paper. Fine art papers are made differently to your everyday papers, such as your basic matte and glossy type paper. So this is on a very flimsy bit of matte paper. This is a 160 gram matte proof. It prints lovely images and it's very detailed. But if you were to give that to somebody as a print you're selling or providing as a giclée art, it wouldn't have that feel about it. It will give you any reassurance that this is archival for the long term. However, putting that onto a 310 gram image, you can see the rigidity in the paper elevates it dramatically. And this is a 310 GSM paper. So just elevating the gram weight is important in your decision making of what you go for the very same reason that we've explained. In many of the art papers, in order to achieve varying white points, paper generally, when it's made, has a particular natural starting white point, depending on the pulp that's used, where it's grown, etc. It can make a big difference. Manufacturing of these paper bases normally include what they call an optical brightening agent, so OBA as we call it, and that added to the mix of the paper pulp will allow you to get the paper base brighter. Now there's some discussion globally about whether OBAs are archival, and it is on many discussion groups that they believe it accelerates fade of your image. Well, in reality what it does, it doesn't fade the image, it just disappears from the paper over time, So if you start with a particular white point and then you expose it to UV light, extreme UV light, the paper will go back to its natural color of its base over time, which might be just a subtle cream rather than a bright white. So just be wary when choosing paper, whether you're aiming for a white paper base or a natural look, and that will have a bearing on what you go for and what choices are available to you. As I've mentioned, all the fine art papers in the PermaJet range are acid-free and are archival grade. When looking at the photo range within many people's offerings, including PermaJets, you need to be aware that there will be papers that contain a little bit of acid. That's because the nature of the way a gloss and a satin basic paper is made, it cannot be totally acid-free. It's on an alpha cellulose base, but it will have a plastic backing applied to it, and it goes through a totally different process to the way that a generic fine art paper is manufactured. And these are made in high volumes. This is for the mass market. So everybody will have a gloss, a satin or a matte in their choice of papers on the shelf. And we're talking about getting some of those extra special papers, 1 or 2 usually, which will sit there for you to choose and use when you want to do a really special image. So now we're just going to analyze some of the images and papers we've used today for the ones on the table here, just as a quick overview as to why it's important to analyze what you're trying to print. So this particular image is, I'll put it the right way up, is a picture of a door with, it looks really interesting, nice sharp image, but there's texture to this wall around it. So what we've done is we've decided that this actually needs a subtle textured base paper, and that almost gives you the ability to touch it for real. It just gives it that little bit of smoothness with a bit of roughness, so that you can just run your finger over it and feel almost like you're feeling the wall for real, as well as holding up all the detail of the image and the colors as they were naturally perceived. If we'd have printed the image on a normal luster paper like our oyster paper, it still prints and looks lovely, but I'm not getting the feel or the excitement from the image as a giclée image would be on the fine art paper. So all I'm getting is it's a luster paper right across and no variants, and that's the difference between using a fine art paper and an everyday paper in different scenarios. So now we're going to look at this particular image, which is a beautiful image, a sunset and through the forest and some nice water at the front there. This paper is called Photo Art Silk. Now the clue's in the name. The silkiness of the image is like a very subtle semi-gloss across its surface. So it's heavy, it's 290 gram, it has a feel of fine art papers, but the lovely subtle silk finish only appears where you print. And the good thing about this image is it's suited to it, because things where you have soft cloud, water, and things that have some kind of minor reflectance, this paper works really well. So that's the reason why we've chosen this one for this particular type of image. And it's also quite a soft image. It's not a hard detail image, but the softness of it also lends itself to that subtle silky look. So that comes out really well on that paper. Again, taking a comparison, if we were to print that on our standard smooth pearl paper, which is a warm everyday paper, yep, again, high detail, nice, but not really getting the vibe or the feel from the feel of the paper, the look of the paper. It's not really giving me anything. It's just printing me a nice image. And again, this is the reason behind fine art prints, is to get to be able to touch the print and feel the quality of it. So again, another nice paper to work with certain types of imagery. If you do those kind of images, certainly you'll find this paper is probably underrated and will work well for you. So when we come on to more art orientated imagery, there's a classic picture here. We've used it a few times in some of our videos. I love this image. I love the painting. It's obviously a painting. It's actually an oil, I believe. And the image of it is so detailed, so detailed. But on the art paper base, again, we've gone for this one is our etching rag 310, heavy base, An etching rag has a very minor texture to it. It's got enough texture to allow you to, again, almost feel the texture of the painting itself, but not be over the top. It's not jumping out off the paper. It's very subtle. But that white point of that base works well with these colours, and the detail is just phenomenal. So that really just works lovely. I love that image. I think I'm going to put that on my wall, actually. If we were to print that image on a standard paper, so we've got here a standard gloss paper, our Gloss 271. Again, the same story. Prints lovely, looks nice. No substance to the paper feel itself. It's an everyday paper. It's 271 gram, high detail. Great if you're just putting prints into an album for the family, but for the special results, go for the art. Go for the etching rag on that one, and see the difference and feel the difference. So, colour management, a really important aspect of producing excellent prints. Now, there's an element of people out there that believe you don't need it, or you can just wing it, guess it, click something and you get a great print and you're accepting it. To be honest with you, colour management is really worth following through on and using at all times. Obviously at PermaJet we offer our ICC profiles, a generic to start straight off from our website, or if you want to progress further than that and get 100% colour accuracy, we do find that about 80% of our customers come back and have a custom ICC profile made. Now these are more accurate because the chart that produces them, that we create them from, is produced from your printer. So it is bespoke to you. And that way you have less wastage going in your bin, less wasted ink, less cost to produce your images. And people go, well, okay, my colours look great already, I don't need it. Well, even if you're using a generic one and it looks great, it might only be 95% correct. So having a profile made can just do a final tweak to that image. It will just tweak the colours slightly. You may not visibly see them at that point, but it would make them better. It can increase the sharpness and detail of an image and the clarity of an image, and the shadow detail in an image. That's also quite important. So you get a clearer, more defined result. So we really highly recommend it. There's no cost for the service if you're buying the PermaJet papers. And so it's totally free, but all you're doing is sending in an A4 sheet of it to us. We will then scan that print that's come from your printer, or the chart, and then we will email the profile to you with your name in it, which is bespoke to you for that paper. It really is worth pursuing and doing. And even if you just do your own test, one with a profile, one with the generic, and one with our custom one provided, I'm sure you will see what we're talking about and see those, whether they're minor or major differences. You will be happy with the results. Before you start doing any kind of editing of your image or profiling your papers, the first step I would point you towards is to look at your monitor. Now, you don't have to have the most expensive monitor in the world. It's not the be-all, end-all. Obviously, there are monitors ranging from £50 up to £5,000. Many people, particularly if you're on a Mac, will use the monitor that the device is already built into. That's fine, but what we would recommend is that you calibrate it. So there are various calibration devices out there, the Calibrite 123, the Spider, Datacolor Spider X Pro, and various devices such as these that are obtainable from us. But if you can get your hands on one, calibrate your monitor. You'd be quite surprised how much change there is the first time you calibrate it. Usually it's the density of the monitor that will drop, the brightness will drop significantly to bring it into line with photographic editing levels. So it's quite dark, but this is designed to match the output from your printer, because the biggest complaint most people have is they do an image on a screen, they edit it, they print it, they've got it all how they want it, print it, and it comes out darker on the printer. Now that's quite normal, because if you're not working with a calibrated monitor, your screen, particularly Macs, will be about 2 times, maybe 2.5 times too bright So what you're visualizing as your preview as how it's going to print, that isn't how the printer's going to print it. So it's better to calibrate the two together. Then if you want to lighten the image, lighten it, and you'll visually see it being lightened from the right starting point, and then that will emulate that result on the printer when you've profiled everything else. So again, talk to us if you're unsure how to go about this, or what devices might be best suited for your needs. We're always here to listen. Obviously, when you've chosen your paper you're going to work with and you're going to do that first print, there are some image preparation pointers we would recommend to you. So if you're working with Photoshop or Lightroom or all these Affinity, all these kind of programs, which are generally the main programs that people use, it's important to get the output ready, the image ready to go to the printer in the right kind of format and state. So with printing to inkjet printers, your program gives you the ability to edit the DPI, the resolution of the image that you're working on, and the minimum requirement for before you would visually see it declining in quality is 240 DPI. Most photographers and the inkjet world these days stick with 300. So ensure your image is preset to 300 DPI and sized correctly and so on. The second stage is to ensure that you are using the color management profile correctly, which we've mentioned already, when again we have many videos and pointers on that, how to go about that. But getting those color profiles to work in tandem with the printer. Now the printer and the profile need to work in harmony. We have given a guide on the naming of profiles and the importance of the paper type that you've output the chart with to create the profile has to be the same setting you choose when you print on the printer, and you have to make sure the quality control is set to at least photo quality, which is 1440 DPI. On some of the Epsons and Canons there is a custom setting. A lot of people just click highest quality. That's not always the best setting. I would always suggest once you've set the media type, go into the custom setting for the quality control. And there's normally a little slider that you can move it to the one notch down from the finest or the highest quality end of the scale. That is 1440 DPI, and generally I set mine to that for every print I do, no matter what I'm using it for, because I know that is photo quality and I'm not going to see a disappointing result or waste my sheet of paper. And other settings will be in your printer driver, no doubt, that make you scratch your head and wonder what they're for. Quite often these printer settings are not required, and it's really the things we're mentioning now are the most key important settings to get right before you begin. When you've produced your print, particularly if you have some heavy inked areas like heavy black ink on the papers, it's important to handle the paper with clean hands, preferably wearing cotton gloves if you have them available, not nylon, vinyl or anything like that. Go for cotton gloves, which will give the least chance of you damaging or marking the papers once they've come off the printer. But the key thing is not to stack prints and rub them against each other, particularly where you've got those heavy dark areas, because it will blemish the results you've done. And remember, when you've printed on inkjet paper, although the coating, the ink is touch dry at the point of exiting the printer, inks can continue to dry for maybe 48 to 72 hours until all the moisture in the ink has fully evaporated. So it does have drying agents in it, but we'd always say try and leave things at least 24 hours before you start putting them into storage bags or albums or anything like that, because that ink is still going to continue to have humidity and moisture in it. In terms of storage, you've obviously got, as we said, albums and bags and these kind of things to put prints in. If you are storing any kind of imagery, particularly fine art ones, don't have it in the vicinity of solvents or acids. These are their worst enemy. Obviously UV daylight is bad, but you shouldn't worry about that too much. It's more about the environment around that will slowly accelerate the decay of the print. When using storage bags, cellophane bags, those kind of things, always ensure you're buying acid-free bags, because there are many different types of plastics on the market. Some are safe for prints, some aren't. Ask if they're acid-free before you start putting your prints into them, because again, they could cause some weird results with your images after a few weeks. Albums as well. So try and go for albums that are certified acid-free. If you're going to store a lot of fine art prints in there, you don't want to have to print them again. So do ensure you check all of those kind of bits of information. So just to recap, there are several aspects of what we've talked about which are key to remember. Choosing the right printer, preferably pigment printer, and the right hardware to get the best results. Choosing the right type of paper that suits your image and is acid-free, etc. And thirdly, the color management control, both of your monitor and of the printer, using profiles of one description or another to ensure that you're not wasting paper and your time in doing this. But the results you will achieve will be stunning. And PermaJet is here to guide you through the whole process. So yes, we obviously would like you to buy our products, but we seriously are all concerned that you get the best results from our products. And we do get many calls every week with people just asking for guidance, just getting some pointers and information. We're always happy to assist, and we have all the information mostly on video, and we can talk you through certain aspects on the phone as well. So don't hesitate to give us a call if you need to chat about any of this today. So thanks for watching today. I hope you've learned a few pointers and hints and tips from me. We're always here to help you, so don't hesitate giving us a call. And I really do, or we really do at PermaJet, really want you to achieve the very best results from your images. So thank you for listening.